to our brand new webinar on higher education, The Road Ahead. I, Priya Singh from Open Magazine, the media venture of the RP Sanjeev Goenka Group, welcome you all in this discussion with the industry experts. In the span of last year, the education landscape across the world has evolved. The pandemic has proven to be a catalyst in the industry of online education and digital transformation. But there's so much ambiguity around how the higher education system in India stands as of today. We have so many questions, and we have assembled an ultimate panel here for the discussion on the topic. So without any further ado, please join me in welcoming the esteemed panel for today's discussion. Professor Anil Dattacharya Sahasrabuddhe, Chairman, All India Council of Technical Education. Shri Nitin Agrawal, Managing Trustee, IMS Ghaziabad. Professor Urvashi Makkar, Director, IMS Ghaziabad. Professor J. Mahendra Reddy, Vice Chancellor, the ICFI Foundation of Higher Education deemed to be university. And Mr. Varun Jain, CEO and founder of Miles Education. Welcome you all on the panel. To answer our first question, I look towards you, Professor Anil Sahasrabuddhe. Please tell us, do you see us moving towards recognizing online education system at the core of learning?
No, I think already in terms of not only new national education policy, where a lot of emphasis is laid on use of technology, online education on one side, already action has been initiated. All those universities who had NAAC accreditation of 3.26 on a scale of 4 plus were already allowed for having all online education programs. IIT Madras has already started a course on computer science and AI on online mode, a BSc degree. So many of these institutions have already started doing it. But more importantly, during this COVID time, because of classes being suspended, face-to-face mode of teaching learning came to a grinding halt from March onwards. And therefore, every institution had to go for online. And now forget about higher education, even school education. Primary education, class 1, 2, 3 kids I am seeing all across the country watching their computers or their laptops or their mobile phones and doing their homeworks, and all of that teaching learning has completely transformed into online education already. So therefore, there is no question of whether online will be permitted or not permitted. Online is going to be the order of the day. However, a word of caution, which we must also understand, the brick and mortar universities, colleges, which have been already established, they will continue to be there. There is a role for them to play. It's not that since online is beginning to happen and there are a large number of online courses coming in, it does not mean that brick and mortar type of university education or higher education will come to a stop. In fact, primary schooling education will be all the more important. Unless you play with your peers, friends, chat, fight, again make love, all of that human psychology gets developed through face-to-face mode when you are in a classroom environment, on a playground, or while doing a drama, while conducting a cultural program. So there is its own value which continues to exist. Secondly, there are programs where intense laboratory experimentation is required, or hands-on learning is required. That you cannot do it in an online mode. Some replacement is possible, some virtual experiments are possible, but nevertheless, if you have to operate an aircraft, if you have to operate a lathe machine, if you have to work with a welding gun, I don't think you can do it only in the virtual mode. And therefore, there is some element in certain domains, including in medical science. Suppose you have all the things, we have done it in an online mode, and will you be allowed to do an operation of heart, based on the theoretical knowledge and the things which he has seen? So I think these differences, subtler ways of where it is possible fully, where it is partially possible, all of these things have to be understood in the right perspective. However, as I said, COVID has helped us in forging ahead in terms of much better online education than ever before.
Okay, thank you, sir. I think this is valuable clarity. Because we all were thinking maybe blending learning is the only way ahead, but there's a human element that we need in our education to evolve as a better person. So on the same lines, I am now moving forward to the next question to Professor Mahendra J. Reddy. Sir, what are your point of views on future scope of higher education? What does it mean to you?
Dr. Anil Sahasrabuddhe, distinguished panelists, the question is the future of higher education, the road ahead, what you have said. This is a very important question. And as Dr. Anil Sahasrabuddhe said, the answer is in our National Education Policy 2020. It spells out, but what is important for all of us is implementation of the document. Implementation of that policy is crucial to realize the results. Now, for example, I'll give you one example. It says, the document says, and the road ahead is that we should achieve a gross enrollment ratio from the existing 26% to 50%. And here, as Dr. Anil Sahasrabuddhe said, online education is going to play an extremely important role. In terms, it is scalability, it's large numbers. And another point which I want to say, it could be made as good as face-to-face education, provided the faculty member, the instructor puts in a lot of effort to make the classes interact. And I'm also happy to tell you, yesterday's union budget presented by the finance minister in the parliament puts emphasis on digitization in education. So that shows the importance of online education. This enhanced ratio of 26% to 50% in higher education in India, particular quality, is not only going to solve the problems of the requirements of manpower in India, but rest of the world. So India has the demographic dividend can be realized by supplying the manpower not only to Indian society but to the rest of the world. That potential India has. I'll just a couple of more points I want to say. What is most important, if you want to tell me what is one single word for the road ahead, is quality. Now, how do we achieve quality? Again, I look back to the National Education Policy document 2020, autonomy to colleges and universities, multidisciplinary and not silo approach to promote creativity, National Research Foundation, light but not tight regulation. Regulation is right, but whatever is there, you implement it 100% in total. Then another aspect is internationalization. That is extremely important. Student exchange, faculty exchange, joint research, dual degrees, because we stand to gain. Now, one more point I want to say is that yesterday in the budget, I just want to read one sentence from the union budget. To promote enhanced academic collaboration with foreign higher education institutions, it is proposed to put in place a regulatory mechanism to permit dual degrees, joint degrees, twinning arrangement, and other such mechanisms. I would like to take a couple of minutes. What we are doing at the ICFI Foundation for Higher Education, deemed to be university, to achieve quality. First of all, the curriculum should be socially relevant. Then we approach case, for case approach, we are only second in the world, next only to Harvard in terms of the number of cases we submit to the United Kingdom-based case center. And one word, if you have to say, the crucial word is quality faculty is the most important thing to maintain quality in higher education. And innovative PhD program we have started, because the new education, the National Education Policy says abolition of MPhil degree. I am all for it. But introduce a good quality PhD program, quality coursework, and a semester abroad if possible. Technology is going to play a very important role, both whether in terms of exams, whether in terms of seminars. We are going to have convocation on March 10th, again online. Critical thinking and innovation in the classrooms is the most important word. If we have to goodbye to rote learning, but how do we introduce the creativity in the classroom? Inculcation of ethical awareness, as Swami Vivekananda pointed out, must be brought into the classroom. Similarly, student clubs for team spirit and leadership, summer internships for online experience, and interface with industry. Now, to achieve all this, one thing I want to say is quality doesn't come cheap. Quality costs. So the goal of 6% of GDP to be spent on education must be realized and taken a step in the road ahead. Finally, collaborations doesn't mean only with industry. Collaborations doesn't mean only with foreign institutions. Collaboration means within India, between IIMs, IITs, and national law schools. There should be collaboration, and that collaboration should start at home, and that will enhance the quality and quantity for higher education. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. It was quite a in-depth understanding of the subject. And what I gather from your information is that, of course, more people across the country will have access to better higher education through digital platforms, which in turn will help India to really assess its potential.
Yes.
So thank you for those insights, sir. I will now move towards Professor Urvashi Makkar. Ma'am, how do you see the assessment processing changing, the application processing changing with this changing way of higher education?
So, well, it's such an interesting discussion going on. And after listening to Dr. Anil and Dr. Reddy, of course, I think that I can add on few of my cents to the whole wisdom which is sitting on a single panel today. That when we talk about the assessment and the evaluation processes going on in the institutions of higher education and specifically the management education, I must say that there has to be, first of all, the best teaching and learning and evaluation practices established in every campus. And the student-centric education with the focus on the skill enhancement and the corporate readiness. These are two major components which have to be integrated and intertwined together. And when we talk about the National Education Policy 2020, I am so sure that if it is going to be implemented in totality, the focus on skill enhancement and the corporate readiness of the students is going to be so strong that today the biggest challenge which our country is facing in terms of the unemployability of the younger lot, despite the factor having a degree in the hands, is going to be tackled so nicely. So I'm very sure that a quote which has been told by a senior academician that to define is to limit. I'm very sure that has to be the fundamental principle behind the evaluation and assessment policies. The assessment and evaluation has to be so open-ended based on the innovations of the students. And that's why the three dimensions of education, the knowledge acquisition, leading to competence development, and finally leading to the innovation creation, has to be the fundamental principle for each institution of higher education and specifically for the management education. And besides that, few points which have already been discussed by the experts, that internationalization of education, the cross-cultural strategic alliances, the partnerships and the mergers are the new trends in management education and higher education system. And I'm very sure that one of the important reasons of Japan's climbing to the top ladder of industrial world is that they have always believed in developing people before developing the products. I'm sure that Indian management education has to think in this direction. And once we are going to have the curriculum which is in sync with the corporate expectations and upgradation of the curriculum based on those expectations, I'm sure assessment tools will definitely be integrated, keeping into view that not to limit the innovation of the students and the creativity of the students. So we have to provide the wings to the innovation and creativity of the students with the help of our evaluation policies and assessment policies. And that has to be considered within the organizational setup.
Mm-hmm. So thank you, ma'am. You bring some very interesting points in the discussion. One being the mergers of top institute to bring out new courses, and the same leg of the story, the innovation work that students need to bring in. So those are the two things that we also really look forward for the higher education to collaborate and present the student with. Moving forward in the entirely new format, Mr. Varun Jain, you are the expert in the area. So I ask you this, according to you, the alternative careers, or especially the fields like CPA and CMA, how do you think the online education is impacting the whole industry?
So, when we look at a lot of these alternate careers, we're basically talking about continuous learning. We're saying, okay, hey, we have learnings through universities and colleges, and then you graduate, you start working. And alongside your full-time job, how do you upskill yourself to remain relevant? And when we look at these working professionals, of course, online becomes very convenient, right? Because they're working 5 days a week, sometimes 6 days a week, and then they have to spare time out from their work, from their life, in terms of getting ready for the next role. So as a matter of fact, even pre-COVID, we had a huge number of working professionals opting for online education. Of course, the challenge that we have with online education is you sometimes miss that social interaction, that peer-to-peer learning that you really see in a classroom. So the format that we've always used is a blended mode of learning, where you've had a lot of learning happening online and then a few sessions in class. To give you example, let's say at Miles Education, on a platform, we offer various Violin-X programs, executive education programs with various IIMs and IITs. So you have IIM Lucknow, Kozhikode, or IIT Roorkee. And all these programs have been structured as blended learning program, where you start with an immersion, where candidates go to campus and they have a few days in the campus. Then let's say a 6-month or a 9-month online learning every weekend, and then at the end again go to campus and have an immersion. So the blended learning format works wonderfully well. Even for our programs like CPA and CMA, the advantage with online education is when we do online learning, we actually have a global classroom. So we have candidates from India, from the Middle East, from the US, from various parts of the world. And something that we've also tried to work on with and have been rather successful is trying to flip the classroom. Now, typically the expectation that we have is when you're sitting in a class, you expect the teacher or the faculty to be the sage on the stage, teaching you all the concepts and making sure you're set. And then the homework that's given is, activities, projects, assignments. So what we've been doing, and as a matter of fact, we also work with many universities across India, and what we're advising them is flip your classroom. Send the classwork home, bring the homework to class. Right. The concept teaching can be all pre-recorded videos. It could be your videos, it could be somebody else's videos, let's say on a YouTube or any of the MOOC platforms. So you sort of send the concepts home as homework. And when students come to class, whether it's a physical classroom or an online classroom, make the classroom a discussion board, have interaction in the classroom, the role of the teacher or the faculty transforms from a sage on the stage to a guide on the side. So I think, a lot of opportunities with online education, but, I would say if it's online plus physical, a combined blended mode, that is perfect. But having said that, for working professionals, for lifelong learning, online education has always been the way. But I think with COVID and with stay at home, work from home, there's been a higher adoption, a higher acceptance for online education.
So thank you, Mr. Varun Jain. You bring two very opportunistic points up in the discussion. While I really like the fact that online might have restricted the physical interaction, but it opens up to the world of exposure. And that's what we need to prepare our students for. And second, very right point, it opens up the whole working class to learn again and to be a part of the learning system. Thank you for bringing on those points. It brings great clarity on the subject. Now moving on, my next question was for Mr. Nitin Agrawal. I'm thinking he's off for a while for some reason, ma'am. Are we expecting him to join in?
He was traveling and he's in a rural place where the internet connectivity has been disconnected, unfortunately. So he has sent me a message. I'm apologetic on his behalf. So I'm sure that we can continue with the discussion.
No problem. So with that clarity, how about you answer the question that how do you see the restructure of the courses happening as the amalgamation of physical and online? How do you think the courses are going to adapt?
In fact, this is very interesting question, I must say, and keeping into view the current era of post-COVID and the COVID scenario, I'm sure that the remarkable achievement of Indian education system is visible during this particular phase. And I must say that the dedication and the commitment of the whole academic fraternity has been visible during the last 10 months, that the compulsion of COVID has given us a biggest of the challenge to connect to our students through the online models, despite the factor that this model was not prevalent earlier in most of the institutions. and with lots of infrastructural and IT challenges also, which the country might have faced, keeping into view the internet penetration levels, the accessibility of the IT resources to each student sitting in the different sections of the country. But despite that factor, the dedication of the teaching fraternity is remarkable. And I must say that despite the factor that this is a scenario which has been imposed on us, it has opened us so many vistas for the educational institutions. It has opened up the opportunities to explore further in so many ways. And when we talk about this scenario in the current VUCA environment, when we are facing so much of the volatility, uncertainty, complexities in the educational sector, and not only in the educational sector, in every possible sector around globally. So keeping that into view, I'm sure that this compulsion has given much more agility to the education sector in our country, and they have adapted themselves to these challenges and have tried to do justice in connecting with the students. And not only that, they have innovated in creating student engagement strategies in such a manner that they can utilize the online formats in the best possible way. For example, the adoption of the Bloom's taxonomy as one of the learning pedagogical tool in our campus has given us so many of the new opportunities to experiment with the students, in which all the three hierarchical models which must be utilized in any campus for the learning processes have been utilized, leading to the classification of educational learning objectives into levels of complexity and specificity. So obviously the three levels have covered the learning objectives in cognitive level, affective level, and sensory domains. And undoubtedly this online scenario has given us the opportunity and flexibility to explore much more, and engagements of global experts in this scenario has become so much convenient, and we have utilized that sometimes a challenge which was presumed earlier has become an opportunity today, that we could connect with the global experts throughout the world online and give their wisdom and knowledge sharing to our students almost on day-to-day basis. In fact, we have structured certain curriculum in such a manner that a full 3-credit course is being delivered by the global experts currently in our campus in the online formats, and they are getting huge advantages. So I must say it is a boon in disguise, which has given us lots more flexibility and agility to experiment much more in the teaching learning scenario.
Wonderful, ma'am. I'll just close it with a wonderful line that you said. The challenge has now become the opportunity. What a wonderful thing to end the note with. Now we're a little short on time with Mr. Anil Sahasrabuddhe. So, sir, just coming to you a little early, I would ask for your closing comments with how do you see 3 opportunities and 3 challenges in the area of higher education in the country?
All challenges will convert into opportunities. And that's why I don't think they are 2 different things. But how do we transform them into opportunities is what needs to be seen. The first part is, which was also said by Mahendra Reddy, also earlier, Urvashi also, Varun also, is in terms of increase in gross enrollment ratio from present 27% to 50%. It is a tall order because from mere 0.7% to 27%. It took 70 long years, 7 decades from the time of independence to now. And now in the next 15 years, what we achieved in 50 years, 70 years is going to be achieved in the next 15 years. So it is going to be 3-fold, 4-fold faster rate that we are envisaging. That means it's a challenge. And opportunities, as rightly pointed out, how we can make use of online education, which is so significant. And I was very impressed by Varun when he said, now we have the whole global community available at our disposal. AICT's own faculty development workshops, which we used to hold actually in the face-to-face mode. We had limitation of about 50 faculty being brought into one particular place because we had to make arrangement of accommodation and all that. And then experts also used to travel. So naturally 1 or 2 experts, that too from India. Now in the online mode, In the last 10 months, we have conducted more than 800 workshops, 5-day full workshops, 5-day workshops. And we have trained 1.5 lakh faculty members. And the experts are drawn from anywhere in the world, someone from Tokyo to Australia on the eastern side, to the western side from US, Canada, to middle from the Europe. So I think that is the fundamental change which has already occurred. I think that is why, although it is a challenge, it is a great opportunity. The second one, the policy talks about multidisciplinary education. So all those management institutions who are running only single domain program, engineering colleges, single domain program, law college, single domain program will have to reinvent themselves. They will have collaboration with other institutions and then make it multidisciplinary. So this is again a challenge. The third, very most challenging one would be the academic bank of credits and the transfer of credits and multiple exit and entry, which are all related with each other, is the most, probably the most innovative, nowhere existing in the world, and we are attempting at that. And that's why it is a challenge, and that is going to give the greatest possible opportunity to showcase to the world that India is leading in terms of education. So that is where I can stop at this juncture. And if there is opportunity some other time, I will again join Open Media Network and talk to you all people. But I have another meeting lined up, and I'm sorry I'll have to leave at this juncture. If you have a quick another question, I can answer and then go.
No, sir. I think the absolutely hopeful note that you leave this conversation on, we are looking at next 10 years to show us growth that is estimated for a span of 50 years. That's a very hopeful note to leave the conversation on. We definitely look forward to connect with you again for our future seminars, sir. Thank you so much for taking out the time and doing this with us.
Namaste. Namaskar.
Thank you, sir. So he had to leave because he had another engagement that had come up. But we continuing our discussion forward, the students and the parents who are actually going to watch this webinar would need a clarity on how to make the decision ahead. A student who's really sitting at the verge of choosing a college, what degree to choose, he needs some clarity on what the road ahead for him is. So as a closing, I'll first ask Professor J. Mahendra Reddy for his comments on the topic.
I think all the subjects are interesting. All the subjects are useful. So if a student has to think where he should go, I would say where his competency is. If he's good in mathematics, go into the sciences. But what is most important is what is your own interest. The crucial thing is your commitment, body, mind, and soul. You should put it in, whether you go to archaeology, whether you go to a software engineering, whether you go to IT or MBA or whatever it is. Opportunities are maybe a little better in the business school, in the sense that growth is there, substantial growth is there in the world economy and also in the Indian economy. So in one sentence, if I have to summarize, go by your interest, but most important is give your body, mind, and soul to whatever subject you have taken up and specialize. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, sir. Professor Urvashi.
Yes, I think because I have been associated with the management institutions since last now 25 years, I have seen from my experiences that the choice of the institutions is largely based on the quality of the institution and its legacy in terms of the corporate interface which is being provided to the students. And second very important area, that how much placement readiness we create among us the students during their 2 years of stay in the campus, and how much skill development focus is there in the campus, keeping into view the curriculum which is much more relevant to the market and agility of the curriculum is there. So keeping all these areas, I'm very sure that 3 major components are considered by the students. The first focus definitely has to be on the academic quality which is provided to the students by the campus, which is definitely component of so many factors, including the agility of the curriculum, the corporate interface, which I just have highlighted. And the second very important area after the corporate academic quality is the placement readiness and focus on the skill enhancement. And the third very important factor obviously is the internationalization of the education, the global connect which we can provide to the students, so that not only we are creating a management professional from the national perspective, but from the global perspective. These are three major areas which I believe every student has to consider while considering admission in any of the B school and the choice of the education.
Absolutely. I think you've summed it up all for us. I'll move to you now, Mr. Varun Jain. What are your closing comments for this?
I think in terms of choosing which specialization, which course you want to go for, there's a very interesting Japanese model which is called Ikigai, which is like finding your purpose, right? So, one thing you're looking at is what you love, right? So what do you like doing? What are you good at? And then you also look at what the world needs and what you can be paid for. So if you can, if the student can sort of think, and it's like an exercise, and it's not too complicated, right? So you sort of look at, okay, what do you love? What are you good at? Does the world need this? So let's say you like coding, and the world needs engineers, and you can be paid for coding. Go for engineering. You're good with people. You're good with leadership. You drive people. You love talking to people. The world needs leaders, managers. You can be paid for it. Okay, go for it. So I think it's about finding your own ikigai. Finding your purpose in life. And I think that's a very simple, very good model, which the Japanese use to be happy and find their purpose in life. And I think we can borrow it from them.
Wonderful, wonderful. I think this webinar has been so complete and wholesome on its own. If at all I have to conclude it, starting with what Professor Anil Sahasrabuddhe says, the challenges are becoming the opportunity. We are actually covering up the growth of many years in a very short span of time. As Professor Reddy said, a student has to look for his heart, soul, and mind aligned. Varun Jain said the same thing, find your ikigai. And then as Urvashi ma'am said, industry readiness, your academic excellence, and your skill. All of this is combined, which the online platform, the new education system, which has been evolving, is providing to the students in these coming times ahead. So I think this has been very informative, very engaging, and some very good point of discussions have come out. I wholeheartedly thank you all for genuinely taking out the time, being thoughtful with your inputs, and adding value to our seminar. Open Magazine expresses their heartfelt gratitude to all of you. And till next time, with the promise of bringing up more engaging content, I say goodbye. Till then, keep watching Open Magazine. Thank you.
Thank
you very much.
you.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank
Thank you.